Two guys not related, yet somehow are given the same name. It's time for the Two Daves podcast, where we'll answer the age-old question, are two Daves better than one? And now, here's Dave and Dave.
You heard it right, folks. This is the Two Daves podcast. Welcome to the Two Daves Nation. And don't forget to subscribe or share this podcast with your friends. We are slowly but surely building our audience and would love for you to be a part of the journey. Well, I guess it's time to fasten your seatbelts, check for your floating devices under your seat, and sit back and enjoy. I'm Dave.
And I'm Dave, and once again, this ain't tacos, and the story about that will come later on. Dave, I kind of, we'll tell that story. It's a funny story. It's an inside joke right now, but we're just kind of milking it for all it's worth, right?
Yeah, and we've got to come up with a good story. So yeah.
We've got the story. Maybe we'll bring the person on, you know.
Okay.
But anyway, hey, I kind of had this epiphany the other day, not about tacos.
No. Oh, no.
Can I share this with you?
Dave, when you get an epiphany, I get a headache.
I know. Well, I know. Well, anyway, I thought, what if Davy Crockett and David Hasselhoff did a podcast together? Well,
Dave, that would be impossible because Davy Crockett's dead.
Yeah, but I'm just, what if though, you know? What if they could have called it the Two Daves podcast Surf and Turf Edition? This is brought to you by Awkward Moments. Oh, I didn't say it was funny. I just thought.
You know what, though? That's got me thinking. I'm going to, for our next episode, I'm going to think of some other possible Dave pairings.
I think we should.
That'd be, I mean, you could think of like David Beckham and David Koresh. Can you imagine the two of them?
Oh, man.
Together.
I don't want to think of that. So, yeah, let's do it. Your turn next time.
All right. Hey, listen, anything new going on in your life, Dave?
Well, I just had a birthday and turned the big 5'4".
Oh, crud.
I just lost my 80th pound on my weight loss journey and have 70 more to go. But I'm glad to be alive and making progress. Anything going on new with you?
Well, I tell you what we're doing here in our town. About every other Sunday night, we've been hosting a home fellowship group. Just any interested people, any denomination that wants to come to our living room, and we have some food that we eat, and then I just get into the Word and share. We've been going through the book of James the last several weeks, but very interestingly, last night we had a couple of Mormon missionaries that came to our Bible study, our home group, whatever you want to call it. And so that was fun. They were very, very nice, just very nice young gentlemen. And I think they seem to enjoy it. But I don't know if you're aware, but here in our community, there's a pretty concentrated effort of the LDS. They send missionaries in quite a bit. And as a matter of fact, several years ago, the doorbell rang. And I went, and there was a young Mormon missionary standing on the porch with his guitar, and he had some teenagers with him. And he says, "We just want a Christmas carol." And said, "Hey, that's great." And he played the guitar, and it was wonderful, and sang. And we had some great Christmas songs. We invited him into the living room, and had some great times. And then, after his mission was up, he left. And I haven't seen him since, but I've heard his name. It was actually Dan Reynolds, and he's now the lead singer of Imagine Dragons. So he sang Christmas carols to me in my living room. Wow. And I the Imagine Dragons, I mean, that's not my kind of music. Matter of fact, the first time my daughters talked about Imagine Dragons, I said, "Magic Dragons, what?" Yeah, that's my brush with fame.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mean, have you ever met any other famous people?
Well, I met Dan Quayle, former vice president. He came to our town in Iowa to campaign for a senator that was someone who was running for the Senate and came to the courthouse. And so, yeah, I got to meet him, shake his hand, get his autograph.
Did he spell potato for you?
Very good question, but no, he did not. He kind of remained silent. But I mean, other than people that I've seen at concerts, I haven't met a whole lot of famous people. I think you and I have gotten close to the same person at different times in our life. Didn't you meet Harrison Ford?
Well, yeah. If you want to say the 15-second, 20-second thing, I met Harrison Ford. I was with my son at that time. Was pretty young. We were staying at the same motel he was at in Wichita, Kansas, and
wait a minute.
What's that?
Wait a minute. He wasn't staying in a motel. It had to have been a hotel.
A hotel, yeah, whatever it was. It was a fancy one out by the airport. So my wife was at a conference. We decided to stay there with her, and I guess he was there like renewing his license to fly, and I believe he was buying a new plane. So
yeah, he used to do a lot of business there in Wichita.
Yeah, so we knew about it, and we were leaving the parking lot, and we saw Harrison Ford out. And so we just drove by and said, "Hey, Mr. Ford, how are you doing?" And my son was really excited. He doesn't like talking to adults, but he'll talk to kids. So he greeted us, and that was about it. Harrison Ford cannot be more than 6'5" or 5'6", probably.
Yeah, he's a short guy, isn't he?
He is. It really surprised me. I mean, what was he? Han Solo?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Han Solo. You can't see him, man. It's just anyway.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I had gone to it was in Washington D.C. and I went to the American History Museum, and they have his suit that he wore in Air Force One, and I saw that and I went, "That is a small suit. Certainly Harrison Ford isn't that short." And a few months after you saw him, I saw him in Wichita. I saw him at a restaurant. And I went, "Yeah, he is short." And I talked to him, and he told me about meeting you. And he said,
"Oh, yeah.
He said, he says, "Your name is Dave?" He said, "I met another Dave, and it was the most annoying experience I've ever had in my life."
Yes.
And I said, "I apologize on behalf of all Daves."
Oh, man. Well, it's almost as annoying as you telling this story. So
yeah.
Anyway, we have a mutual pastor friend, and I it's been so long, so I could be wrong a little bit with the details here, but he was out in Universal Studios out in Anaheim somewhere, and he was waiting in line for something, and they were doing the Star Trek movie. Do you remember that?
Star Trek, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so they were doing a movie, and they were looking for Klingons to come on as, just what do they call those people that are in the movie? They don't have any title.
They're an extra.
Yeah, an extra. So our friend Mike, he goes in there, and he's an extra in that movie. He's a Klingon, which is weird.
That right? I guess I've not heard that story. That's pretty cool.
Maybe another thing that we did is we were down with our family, and we were in line with the test track ride down to Epcot, and standing right in front of us was Kobe Bryant and his family.
No kidding.
Yeah, which is cool. And then I think when I was 9 or 10, I was at a golf tournament with my dad and mom, and it was a Pro-Am tournament, and I got Mickey Mantle's autograph and have the picture. My mom took the picture, and we still have it today, the autograph as well, and that was kind of cool. And then one last lame claim to fame is we were at Ames at a pro-life event, and Alan Robertson, you know who Alan Robertson is?
I don't have a clue.
He is one of the Duck Dynasty guys. He's the preacher guy for Duck Dynasty.
Robertson, okay.
And he and his wife were talking that day, and we were able to talk with him and get our pictures with him. Very nice guy.
Very fun.
Real nice guy.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
I thought we didn't have a guest for tonight, so
no.
Dave and I kind of did some research looking for unusual license plates, funny license plates. And did you find some, Dave?
I did. Why don't you begin with a few? And I don't know if we picked out the same ones or not, but we'll find out.
We're going to find out. Yeah. I guess my favorite one was the hearse that has the license plate, "You are next."
That sounds like our mortician from town, man. That's what he would do. I like one that it's an Infinity, you know, the Infinity cars.
Sure.
Yeah. So this guy from New Jersey, it says Infinity on the back, the logo of it, and then his license plate says "and beyond."
I don't get it. Just kidding. Okay. Oh, okay. Here's one. I like this one. It was a truck that was filled with old used tires.
Oh yeah.
And the license plate simply said "tired." That's pretty good, huh? That's pretty good.
That is good. Or what about the DeLorean that somebody had and its license plate says "timeless"?
Timeless. That's great. Anyone who has never seen Back to the Future, of course, has no idea what we're laughing about there. But
no, I know.
I know. Who hasn't seen Back to the Future? Well, my kids.
They haven't?
They have not, and I can't get them to be interested in it, and I don't understand, because that's like one of the best movies that was ever made.
The first time they came out, I think, was 1985.
Yes, I was in college.
I was a senior, and it was, I believe it came out right before the summer or of the summer.
Yeah, it was in the fall.
Oh, it was in the fall?
Mm-hmm.
And it lasted in the theater, I don't know, I thought it was 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah, quite some time.
It was incredible, but I went to it several times.
Maybe it did come out in the summer, and I just saw it in the fall. Because I was actually a student at, well, I won't say where I was a student, but it was a Bible college.
Okay.
And back in the mid-'80s at this Bible college, we were forbidden to go to movies. And so some friends of mine and I, we went to the movie anyway. And, we kind of, anyway, yeah. So we went and saw Back to the Future together in November of 1985. And it was great. I loved it. I still do. 36 years later, I still love it.
Oh man, there's I have one here of a bright red Porsche, and it's just, oh man, it has to be 100,000 plus. But the license plate says 0 kids.
Yep, definitely.
Do you have a couple more at all?
It doesn't have any stickers that say my child is an honor student.
Yeah, no.
I like, there's a panel truck, and the business is Detection Drain Services, and the license plate says "Poo Forever."
Oh yeah. I have one. A guy has a Ford Bronco, and the license plate says "Not OJ."
Not OJ.
Oh,
I love it.
That's funny. Do you have any more?
No, I don't.
Well, the last one I had is a guy that owns a Saab, and his license plate says "What's up?"
What's up? What's up?
Oh, those are great. Mine just has a bunch of numbers and letters on it. I'm boring.
I know it. Mine too. And yours is an Iowa plate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's Kansas.
I'm going to change it to 2 Daves, though, maybe.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? 2 Daves.
Yeah. Yeah, they would probably ask why, because you weigh as much as 2 Daves or what? I mean, come on.
No, the answer is 2 Daves are better than 1.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Well, I read a recent survey, Dave, from this research group called Turnkey. And they found out that
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah?
I had that at Thanksgiving.
Oh, you did?
A turnkey.
This has been brought to you by Awkward Moments and Silent Moments. All right. Anyway, it said that they did a survey, and they found out that 30% of Americans have not taken a leisure trip at any length.
30% of Americans?
Yeah. Now I know
That's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's hard to believe, especially in the times that we're living in.
It really is, yeah. We live in such a mobile society. Our society is more mobile than it has been at any time in history. So what are people doing? How come they aren't traveling?
You know, I talk to a lot of people that have never even gone out of the state.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. And you know, look at the transportation over 100 years, the change of transportation. I mean, it used to take days to travel from, let's say, Iowa to Florida or whatever. Now it just takes, a couple hours. And you think of train. You can go by train. You can, which I don't know why you would, except I heard some of the Amtrak tracks were pretty cool when going out west.
I took a train ride. I took a train ride from La Plata, Missouri to Chicago. My whole family. This was a family vacation that we did back in 2008, I believe, and we took an Amtrak ride to Chicago, and it was fun. I would never do it again, but it was a lot of fun. It really was.
Yeah. Well, did it have those viewing cars? And
yeah.
Did it have, where what the restaurant cars or wherever that was?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. I heard it's expensive though to go Amtrak.
Yeah, it's expensive. It was kind of one of those once in a lifetime things, but my wife wasn't very comfortable. Like, for instance, the viewing car, she couldn't handle it. Made her sick. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's do something here. Let's talk about what different transportation vehicles have you been in to get you from point A to point B. So we both can say a car.
No, I haven't ridden in one of them newfangled cars. yes, car.
Okay. Yes. How about a motorcycle?
I have ridden a motorcycle once.
Okay, I have too.
With David Pantleo. Do you know David?
Oh yeah, David. Yeah.
Yeah, I rode his bike. Yeah.
David and his wife Brenda are they do a lot of Christian stuff, and they help the motorcycle community. Good, just great people. He came to church one time, Dave, and I was handing out pretend raffle tickets to the people, and we had a raffle drawing, and I said, Dave, come on up and let's do a raffle drawing. And he's like, okay. Well, he brought his I told him to bring his motorcycle up to the front, so he did, and he's pulling it out, and I didn't tell him what it was about, and so he pulled it out and he was all excited, and I said I said which one it was, and we had it already staged. Who was going to stand up and get really excited about it, and they ran up and they go, I can't believe it, and he's like looking at me, and I said, this is great, isn't it, Dave, that you're giving your bike away to these people? This has been a great raffle.
Dave, you are an instigator, I'll tell you.
He never came back. I don't know why. Okay, so motorcycle, you said train.
Yes, I've taken the train.
Mm-hmm. I've been on a ferry where we took our family, drove the car on the ferry boat.
Yep, I've been on a ferry.
Transported that way. Mm-hmm. I've been on a boat. Yep. A plane.
Yes, although it took you a long time to get on a plane.
Oh man, yeah.
I remember you and I, for years, we wanted to go to Las Vegas and see somebody in concert.
You don't want to say who that is. That's all right. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I drink ginger ale.
Yes.
We
want to see somebody.
Yeah, we want to go see somebody, but you said we're going to have to drive because I will not get in a plane. But it wouldn't last, what, 6-7 years? You've been flying all over the place.
I have, yeah, but unfortunately it was not until I was 47 or 46, whatever, I started, maybe 47, 48, I don't know. It's embarrassing. But I remember my first flight, my wife and I were going down to, where are we going? We're going to Pinehurst, Pennsylvania, and no, not Pennsylvania. What is that? Pinehurst, North Carolina, right? I don't, wherever Pinehurst is, and yeah, North Carolina. Okay, so anyway, we had to go from Des Moines to Detroit, and if you've those small short flights, you're up and you're down, and that's it. It was less than an hour we were there, but we hit all kinds of turbulence, got into a storm, and I'm just like, oh, I dreamed about what that would be like. And as we landed, one of the ladies that works there, she said, we'd just like to thank our first time flyer. He's 48 years old. Come on up here, and we've got your flight little badge for you that you can wear. So, where 6-year-olds would get it, I was a 47, 48-year-old guy, and I got my first flying badge. But that was kind of.
I never heard that story. That's pretty good.
There's other ways. So anyway, I guess we're just saying there's so many ways to travel nowadays. I don't understand why people don't get outside of their own state.
Have you ever been on a golf cart?
I've been on a golf cart, Dave, plenty of times.
Plenty of times, yeah.
A horse, you name
it. A horse, yes, me too, yeah.
So, yeah. Now, I think you found some more research, right, about travel and vacation?
Oh, yeah. Well, the results are pretty amazing. And it may perhaps explain the gaps of knowledge that a lot of Americans seem to have of the world. I remember growing up, my dad, and we didn't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I probably, looking back on it, we could say that we were poor, although I didn't know it then. My parents they always provided.
Right.
But my dad always made sure that we had a family vacation. And I mean, we didn't go anything spectacular, but we did see a lot of things. And they just felt like that was important, that was important for our development, was that we go and see things. And so I tried to also do that for my kids as they were growing up, to go on vacation. But there's a lot of people. Here's some results of this survey that probably just will knock your socks off. 11% of survey respondents have never traveled outside of the state where they were born.
Well, there you go. Just what I was talking about.
Yeah. Over half of those surveyed, over half, we're talking 54%, say they visited 10 states or fewer.
There are still 50 states, right?
There are 50. Well, right now there are, yes.
Okay. All right.
As many as 13% say they've never flown in an airplane. 49% of those questions said they've never left the country. And we're both international travelers, aren't we? We've left the country.
Yeah.
Over half of respondents have never owned a passport. So I just thought that's interesting. But this lack of travel isn't always because people don't want to. A lot of times, matter of fact, most of those surveyed, they expressed a desire to travel, with 85% saying that they like to experience new things, and nearly 60% said that they have a list of places in mind that they'd like to see. Yeah.
You were talking.
What?
You were talking about, being poor, not knowing it. I'm the same way. I mean, I grew up in a poor family, but your parents worked hard. My parents worked hard. I didn't know how poor they were, and they never let me know. But
yeah,
we did take vacations. And what kind of vacations did you take, Dave? Before tonight we're going to talk about a couple of our favorite places to go. But what kind of family vacations did you take? And I can share a few of mine.
Oh, I can remember times that we loved to rent a fold down camper. Some people call them pop-ups. We call them fold downs. I don't know what the difference between a pop-up and a fold down is, but we would get that and our family would stay. And then we had so much fun renting those things. We would go, we went to Mount Rushmore one time in South Dakota. We went to the Great Smoky Mountains in like Tennessee and that area. Just a lot. One of the most, honestly, when I think of family vacations, one of the things that really comes to my mind, incredibly, was a time when my dad was pastoring a very small church in northern Missouri and making next to nothing. but he had built a camper for our pickup. He built it himself. And it was pretty crude. And in those days, in the early 1970s, I mean, there was no air conditioning in most vehicles anyway, at least in, families in our economic strata. And so I remember it being very hot. And but we had a good time. Well, we had a good time up until my sister shot my dad.
What?
Yeah, she had gotten a BB gun and was target shooting, and for some reason my dad walked in front, in between her and the target, and she shot him in the finger, and he kept that BB in his finger for years after that. I think to just kind of taunt her. He kept saying, he said, someday I'm going to die. And he said, several years down the road, all of a sudden there's going to, in that casket, you're going to hear, or you're not going to hear, but there's going to be the noise, bing, because that BB is going to drop and roll. But he eventually actually did have it removed. But
that's funny.
Yeah,
I'm sure not at the time, but that's a
Oh no, not at the time. It was terrible. And then we had a couple of flat tires on the way, and he had to change the tire himself with that bad hand. And it wasn't any fun for him, but it was fun for the rest of us.
Who cares? Dad's doing it.
Yeah. Well, Dave, how many states have you visited in your life?
More than 10, I can tell you that. I thought about that. I think I've been 39 out of 50, maybe 40. Because, when I was young, my parents took us places. We would go down to Branson before Branson became big. And we would stay in the cabin down there with one of Dad's friends and their family.
That's in Missouri.
Yeah, that's in Missouri. That's correct. And we would fish and go to those remember the old water slides that you could go to, and we would do that and just eat by the fire and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was just fun stuff. Sometimes our vacations were going to watch the Minnesota Twins up in Minneapolis. We'd stay for a few days. Sometimes it was going down to Kansas City. I mean, it wasn't very far.
Are you a Twins fan?
Yeah, I'm a Twins fan, and
how did I not know that?
Yeah, those are still my teams, but I guess they say for Vikings fan, once a loser, always a loser. But anyway, I
can't believe that I've known you all these years, and I never knew you were a Vikings fan.
Yeah. We had also gone to, my dad's aunt lived in Los Angeles, Thousand Oaks. So I remember them working overtime. My mom worked extra job, I believe, and we were able to go out to Thousand Oaks, and that was such a great. It was 1976, Dave. You know what 1976 was?
Yeah, the bicentennial.
Yeah. And so I was 9 years old. And my aunt and uncle were a lot more well-to-do than my family, and they were so generous with what they did. They took us to a Dodgers game. They took us to Disneyland. They took us to Knott's Berry Farm. We went to Universal Studios. We went to the Wax Museum. I mean, it's just, those were great memories. And then my aunt and uncle lived out in Newport, Rhode Island, which, have you ever been to Rhode Island before?
I have not.
So, they live way out on Newport, and they were starting a new church, and we went out there on the beach. We were able to go to Plymouth Rock, all that kind of stuff. I was maybe 12 years old then, and we stopped at the Baseball Hall of Fame. We stopped at the Football Hall of Fame. We stopped at the Tennis Hall of Fame, and those were great memories. And I'm so grateful that my mom and dad took time out, just like you're grateful your parents took time out to do that with the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, how many states have you been to, Dave? I've been to 39, 40. What about you?
I've only been to 29 states. So you obviously have done more traveling than I, but 29 states.
Well, like the song goes from the Beach Boys, I get around.
Yeah, I guess you do. Well, we thought it'd be fun to talk about some of our favorite places we vacationed or maybe just visited for the fun of it. So I guess I'll start. Do you mind?
Okay. No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, two of the places I've traveled literally all over the world, several continents. But I guess if I wanted to narrow it down to two, we took a trip to Washington, D.C. in 1991. My wife and I hadn't been married very long, not quite a year yet. And we went with my parents and my brother and my sister. And we took my parents by that time had a fifth wheel camper, and we took that, and we first went to Pennsylvania and saw like Gettysburg and things like that, and then on to DC. And it was a lifelong dream. I mean, yes, I was young, I was in my 20s, but I had forever dreamed of going to Washington, D.C., and it always just seemed like a pipe dream. And finally it was made possible. And I remember we took the subway to the National Mall. And for those of you who don't know, the mall is not a shopping mall. The mall is a wide open stretch of grass between the Washington Monument and the Capitol buildings, I think 3 miles. And we came up out of the subway onto the mall, and you could see the Capitol, and you could see the Washington Monument, and you could see the Jefferson Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial. And I remember just thinking, I'm here. Yeah. And we talked a little bit in one of our episodes about I'm a history buff, and I like especially presidential history. And I think I've always thought that everybody who's in American history and everybody who's in American government in school ought to be required to go to Washington, D.C., because in history you learn what happened, but when you're there, you are where it happened. In government, you learned what goes on. In DC, you see it where it happens. I mean, we sat in the Senate chamber, we saw Senator Al Gore stand up and talk. That was obviously before he was vice president. And it's just, it was just a very fascinating time for me. And I guess I would include that as probably my most interesting vacation, just simply because of my lifelong interest in history and government. And why don't you go ahead and go with your first one before I give my second one?
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because that's on my bucket list to go to Washington. In fact, I've always, one of the things I've wanted to do is open up in prayer, either in the House or in the Senate, and trying to make that happen. And we got close one time, and then stuff happened, and then we're trying again. So, but my daughter
went there. I'll tell you what. You'll probably make it if you promise to say amen and a woman.
I'm not doing that.
Okay.
But my daughter went there for her 8th grade trip from school. And, I was a little envious of that, because that's pretty cool. It has to be, there has to be a feeling, a lot of emotions that are there when you see all that in person.
Oh, I can't even begin to describe. I tried to begin to describe, as I came up and I just saw those. Wow, I'm here. And several years later, 12 years later, I had the privilege of taking my oldest daughter. We had our church's general conference was in Washington, D.C. that year. And I went back and took Jessica, my oldest daughter, with me. And so I had the privilege of being able to share that experience with her. I'd love to take my other 2 daughters with me sometime, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think that would be a good place for a 2 Daves podcast sometime.
I think that'd be great. Our 2 families can go.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to do that. I would not want to drive. I'm not a big city driver, but I would love to have people that know where they're doing, get on one of those bus tours or whatever.
There's plenty of those. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, the thing to do would be to fly.
Yeah. Now you went, 12 years later, you said, after you went there the first time?
Yeah. We were in 1991, and then we went in 2003, which was very interesting. We went just a couple of years after 9/11, and to see all the restrictions that were in place yet. Then we couldn't get into the White House at that time because of it was a little too close to 9/11. But we heard firsthand responses. For instance, our tour guide at the Capitol told about her experiences on 9/11. They were, nobody knew what was going on, but they were told that they needed to evacuate the Capitol because they heard that another plane was coming towards the Capitol. She said when they evacuated, they got outside, and she said she looked back and she saw the front steps of the Capitol covered with shoes, as people were just kicking their shoes off and running, just scared out of their minds, and their shoes were just covering the steps of the Capitol.
Wow.
Just incredible, just real surreal. But it was interesting to hear that, kind of those firsthand remarks from someone who was there.
We were not alive when JFK was assassinated.
That is correct. Neither was he.
No. And yeah. So, but we were there for, when 9/11 took place. I was in Wichita at a pastor's conference. Where were you at, Dave?
I was at a pastor's conference in Colorado.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and then we heard about that. And just recently, my son got married here a couple years ago, and in Pennsylvania. And there's if you're on the interstate there's a place that you can turn off and go about maybe 40 miles off of the interstate. And that's where one of the planes went down that was intended for Washington.
Yes.
And I believe that was Todd Beamer's.
Yes. Let's
plane.
roll.
Yeah. And you go by that marker and you just think, wow, what damage that could have been. And then, they had that earthquake there, which did cause quite a bit of damage in Washington, but I don't know if they're done with all the work on that. But that is in American history, that's a sacred place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one day, hopefully,
let's plan on that, Dave. That's you and I and our families will go out there, and we'll do a podcast from out there.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I guess the one for me is I would like to generalize it and say going to Orlando, but I'm just going to be specific about, say, Orlando, but I'm going to generalize it and say Florida.
You love Florida, don't you?
Yeah, I do. The weather, I'm here back in Iowa, and it's cold now. It's going to be colder the next week and a half. We don't get a lot of sun and all that kind of stuff. And I love to play golf. So it's nice to go down there. When my wife and I got married in 1990, my grandmother gave us a check. She said, I had started a honeymoon account for you back when you were like 10 years old. And I'm like, what? And it was like $2,200, and we had other money, and we went down there, and it was my first time to Florida. Now, my wife had been there a few other times, but we stayed down there, and it was the year that Universal Studios opened up in Orlando. But we're not really big time Universal Studios people. We're Disney people. And I'm not a big roller coaster ride person. So back then, Universal Studios had the King Kong ride and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about, Jaws and all that. Now everything's a thrill ride, and I can't handle that. So, but we really love Disney. And I have a love-hate relationship with Disney. I love going there, the nostalgia. I just don't like their politics, So, but anyway, I go there, and we love going to the resorts. We can resort hop, and each resort has.
Do you look for the hidden Mickeys?
Oh yeah, we've done that all along. Yeah, that's kind of fun, Yeah,
it is. It is.
We. I don't know if are you gonna talk about Disney or not?
No, you go ahead.
So you've been there before.
Oh, I've been there too. Yes, with our whole family. Yep.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about, and many of our listeners know how fun that is. Now, some listeners would go, I'm never going to go to that place again because they hate crowds and all that. But, it's just a great place.
To be honest with you, the reason why I'm going to let you talk about it is because I wasn't overly impressed. It's my kids, especially my middle daughter, she calls herself a Disney nerd. And she always wanted to go to Disney. And so the three girls and my wife had a blast. The only thing I enjoyed about it is that I was with them, and that made it enjoyable. But as far as everything else, I've been there, seen it, done it. I don't need to go back.
Well, okay, and I get that. Maybe for me, you got to remember back in 1976, I went to Disneyland. So my memory is Disneyland. And in fact, for my Christmas gift, one of my Christmas gifts from my mom was she had found, and I knew she had it, but we could never find it. She found some of the memorabilia that we got from Disneyland. And so we found, I'll show you this right here from 1976, and it's all together. It's worth quite a bit of money, and it's 26 colorful scenes from Disneyland. And then we found the ticket things of Disneyland. And this one is Frontierland. Used to have tickets and have to go do things. These at the end were postcards as well. And so it's just, it brought back old memories. But Disney World is split up into 4 different parks. I don't know. Did you go to all 4 parks?
No, we went to Magic Kingdom.
Oh, is that the only one you went to?
That's the one we went to. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll make a case that you missed it by not going to the other ones, because I think you would probably like it a lot better. Magic Kingdom is just like Disneyland, but bigger. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of the nostalgic stuff for fans, Disney fans and all that. And it's fun to go to. Our favorite is Epcot. Mm-hmm. Epcot, there's Tomorrowland, and they're changing it somewhat, and then there's the Nations, and it's so cool. My wife and I really love going there by ourselves because we can go there, we shop, we take our time, that we can eat you can eat at all these different nations, something little. They have concerts there. It's just fun, Yeah,
that sounds fun.
Yeah, and then they have Animal Kingdom, which is a good time if you like the animals and stuff. And then the other one is Hollywood Studios, which for a long time it was a dud, but now it's the place where Star Wars is and all that fun, Toy Story and Land and all that. But so that's kind of, we really love going there. We love staying in the resort. Now I'm going to put a little disclaimer here. My daughter-in-law worked there, okay, and my son and daughter-in-law, they met at a college work program for Disney. So that's where they met. They've been married now for a couple of years. Well, there's some perks to being associated with family that work there. So resorts, we could get in half price and all that kind of fun stuff. So, and get into the parks for free at times, but we've paid for it as well. So that's fun. We love the expensive food. And just the great memories that we have together with our family. I think my best memory is watching my kids go in there for the first time and just watching them they were in awe through the whole thing. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun watching your kids. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so that's good. We also love going to the beach. Now, I'm like a beached well when I go there, but we like going to, this past year, we went to Marcos Islands, and it's down by the Everglades, and it was incorporated in 1955, Dave. And
wow.
We went down there because of COVID. People weren't going on vacation, and we stayed in a very expensive place for a poor man's wage, and it was a great time. We walked out onto the Gulf of Mexico. We went on rides through the swamplands. We went on a journey through the Everglades. I mean, it's beautiful. And my wife's favorite part is the beach. So I love Florida. And I guess that's one of my...
I've been to Florida with you.
Yeah, we did. We went to Pensacola.
Yep.
A couple
we were
times.
on the beach there. Yeah,
a couple times. As a family, right?
We were a couple times. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So Lane and Jessica were just little kids when we all went. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. I think we went at Christmas time, didn't we? Close to it.
No, when we went with our families, that was in May.
Okay.
Now, when it's just you and I think your wife was there too. That was in, right after Thanksgiving. So
1st of December, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I thought. Well,
I
what other
got
place?
really sick while I was there.
You did?
You don't remember that? I got influenza. I was so sick.
Oh boy, I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's all right. Hey, it's been 25 years ago. So
Yeah, I know.
Well, the other place that I really enjoyed, and this is going to sound, forgive me, it's going to sound almost lame because probably everybody and their brother, well, no, not true. No, nobody travels. We just found that out. But a lot of people have been to Pikes Peak. And I mean, that's pretty regional for our area. A lot of people have been to Pikes Peak. But the reason why I choose that as my second place is because it holds a lot of significance for me. My family and I were visiting in Denver and Colorado Springs. And the morning that we woke up and we were going to go to Pikes Peak, I was having some physical issues that bothered me, that actually kind of scared me. And it was weighing on me all day long. And we took the cog train. I understand that they've now closed that cog train, and that's really too bad because that was a fascinating trip, taking that cog train up to Pikes Peak. We got out, and I'd been there before. It wasn't like this was the first time that I'd been there, but we got out of the train and stood there, and you could see the Purple Mountains majesties. And I had an epiphany. It was my turn to have an epiphany. And I realized, God spoke to my heart and he said, I made this. I made this. Nothing is too hard for me. And I was just, I was so touched that I called my family together, my wife and my 3 girls, and they were young. Jessica was the oldest. She was, I think, in 7th grade, going into 7th grade. So, and the other 2 were like going into 1st or 2nd or something like that. And I called them together. I said, hey, girls, who made this mountain, and who made all this earth that we see? God. And what does that mean? And they're like, you can see in their faces, they're like, are we really going to have Sunday school up here, Dad? And I said, this means that he can do anything. And I'm like crying. Tears are running down my face because I was having a spiritual experience at the top of Pikes Peak. And he took care of that issue. That was the last day I ever had to deal with anything like that again. And I just believe that God used his creation to speak to my heart at that particular time. And so that's why I will always have a special place in my heart for Pikes Peak.
That's a cool story. I'm reminded out of Romans chapter 1, it says that his creation makes known to everyone that he is the creator.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you can see, you and I have seen some beautiful things in our travels. We've seen some beautiful things. And I do not know how you can see those things and question the existence of God. It's just impossible.
I know. What a great designer, architect, painter he is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll conclude with this one is not the most beautiful place I've been to, but it had beautiful people and it kind of wrecked my life in a good way. And I've been to Canada and Mexico. That was the extent of me leaving the country.
Your international travel, huh?
Yeah. But I went on a short missions trip to Haiti. And it was in probably 2015, I think, when I went, maybe 2016. And when we went there, I flew into Miami, and I can remember, wow, I'm going to be flying over the Caribbean and just, something new for me.
Yeah.
And so we're going in there. I had no expectations because I was clueless in where we were going. We went to Port-au-Prince. Flew into Port-au-Prince, and if you remember, Haiti had the terrible earthquake. Port-au-Prince was the epicenter there. And we got in, flew into there, and there was half of the airport was crumbled and the other half was the newer part. And we flew in, and we had to
You
pay
fly into the crumble part?
Yeah. We flew in and we went inside the airport, and we had to pay money, kind of, here's our take $30, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And our leader said, hold on to your bags. We've got people ready for you. And when we stepped out, Dave, there had to have been 1,000 Haitians that were out there. They were looking just at us people. I mean, we were rich people compared to them. And many of them were wanting to take our bags and make some extra money. But we got help by our friends and went through and just saw the destruction. It's a third world nation, especially there. I mean, it's third world. And the traffic was incredible. You know what I'm talking about, right? You've been to a third world country. And
I've been to Haiti, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you've been to Haiti too. Yeah. So, being there, it's beautiful. It's 90 degrees all the time, it seems like. And I was talking to my daughter one time. She says, how can they live like that? And I said, well, I tell you what, God knows what he's doing, because their houses, they have no electricity, most of them. They don't have heaters or air conditioners. Can you imagine those kind of people surviving in Iowa? They couldn't survive, but God put them in that kind of country,
Mm-hmm.
But we went there and went to orphanages, and it was more than just the scenery. That experience was all about being with the people.
Yeah.
And it was a life-changing incident for me. I mean, life-changing event. And I'll never forget, and we're getting ready to go back again whenever COVID's over with, and we're going to take some people from our church. But to hold those orphans, some of them had been in the orphanage for all their life, and they were 15, 16. I didn't hold 15, 16-year-olds. I'm not saying that, but to hold some of those babies that they're going to live there most of their lives there, at least until they're 18, and then and it was just incredible to see things, because when you live in America, you're just so used to having everything you want. Mm-hmm. But the most beautiful thing about that place, it was beautiful, the trees and all that kind of stuff, but the most beautiful thing was the people. Yeah. I love the Haitian people. Can't wait to get back. And I still talk to one of the pastors that helped drive us down there. So that was a life-changing moment for me.
That's good. That's interesting. You have any plans to travel anywhere this year?
Florida.
Yep. Yeah.
I got kids down there, so I'm going to go down there, play golf. Hopefully Disney will open up, go to Disney and go to the beach again. Should be fun. What about you, Dave? Going anywhere this year?
Well, I am planning to in May. We're going to go down and see my daughter and her husband that live in Texas, in the Dallas area. It's been a few years since I've been able to make a trek down there, so I want to go see them. Next month, we're going to be flying to LA again. My youngest daughter, is out there doing a Youth with a Mission stint, and she graduates the 27th of February. So my wife and I are going to fly out there for her graduation. We were out there, we took her out in October, and my first time in California, I could add number 29 in California. But we talked before how I really love, the Hollywood scene, movies and everything.
Right.
And so we got to do some touring in Hollywood, the Walk of Fame and a lot of things there in Hollywood. And so we're looking forward to maybe doing a few more things in the short time that we're there. So that's what's coming up this year.
Hopefully things will start opening up a little bit for you out there.
Yeah.
That'll be nice. Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It was kind of fun to talk about travel. And I would suggest anybody get out there with your family. Don't make work such a priority that you miss out on making memories with your kids. And if you don't have kids, make memories with your wife. And if you don't have a wife, get out there and have some fun.
Maybe you'll find a wife.
Maybe you will. Maybe you will. So, as always, if you enjoyed this podcast, And I would again say, even if you didn't, we would ask you to subscribe or share this podcast with your friends. It's so fun to be able to do this. Dave, we're into our 4th episode now. Can you believe it?
Having fun with it. Well, until next time, always remember, 2 Daves are better than 1.